Hey you guys, my name is Sean. I'm a houseplant enthusiast from Jakarta, Indonesia. In this episode, we'll talk about the economics of rare plants and why they cost so much. Now, a lot of you guys commented on my videos where I explore a lot of these rare plant shows, or even like when some people post a certain plant at a certain amount of price and be like, why do they even cost so much? I would never spend an X amount of money on this kind of plant. Well, I hope that after seeing this episode, we can have a meaningful conversation about the value of plants, because that said plant at that price point, at this point in time, is not meant for most of us. It is a wonderful thing to observe the prices as they go up and down, but I'm going to be sharing with you in this episode a pyramid, a structure of plant price over time, so we can have a meaningful relationship with the plant market and make informed choices when we buy plants. Now, the first thing about plant prices is that it's very different from consumer goods. Consumer goods like food, beauty products, fashion, and luxury cars, they depreciate over time and they also deplete over time. However, with plants, they're very different. We all understand that plant prices do come down over time, but their quantity does multiply. So why do people spend so much money on rare plants? I came up with 5 reasons, the number 1 being the most important. We're gonna go backwards here. So number 5, they buy it because they can. Some people just have a lot of money, some people just buy it on an impulse without thinking too much. And number 4, we find their beauty irresistible. Sometimes some of these new and interesting rare plants are just spectacular. Number 3, some of us just buy things out of status symbol or vanity. We just want to be seen buying a lot of the plants. So when we go to auctions, or sometimes when we even go to live sale, it is very visible who comes to these sales and who buys these plants. So sometimes shopping for plants and also showing them off on Instagram, like, oh, I have this variegated so-and-so, it is just something that is out of vanity. And reason number 2, and this is something that a lot of collectors, which is not most of you, but a lot of true collectors, they just love having that piece of item that nobody else has. For example, classic vintage cars or your collector item shoes. And the number 1 reason why people buy into some of these rare plants is that they are confident that they can turn that into profit. And feel free to insert some more of your reasoning down in the comment section. This is an open discussion and I may have missed some of the important things, but I'm going to go through another list next. What are some of the factors that determine the value of plants? So here's my top 8 going backwards again. Feel free to add yours in the comment section down below. Number 8. Can the plant grow well? So that is one of the factors that people think about when they are trying to buy a plant. Would a desert plant grow well here in my tropical climate? Or would like a rainforest jungle plant that loves to be in terrarium do well in a low humidity of Nevada? Number 7, how stable is the form or variegation? A lot of people don't want to buy plants and then later on have it, revert or change because some of the mutations out there aren't that stable. Number 6, the speed of growth. If a plant grows really fast, it will multiply faster and then the value would drop very, very quickly. But a plant is very, very slow to grow. The value is going to hold up quite well. Number 5, the fame of the person who bred it or named it or discovered it. Obviously, an unknown person with maybe 50 followers on Instagram that nobody has heard of. No matter what plant they have discovered, no matter how exquisite, how beautiful, or what he named the plant as, it will not sell very well. And of course, YouTubers and influencers have a lot of influence on the plant prices as well. And number 4, the beauty. Of course, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but a plant that is generally thought to be beautiful will command a better price. Number 3, this is important, the trend. So right now, the aroids are the most trending plants. So your anthurium hybrids, philodendron hybrids, and also your variegated monsteras, they're gonna fetch a huge price. Now, if I was in begonias or peperomias or euphorbias, they just aren't a plant that is in trend now. No matter how I hybridize them and create beautiful products, it will not fetch a good price. Number 2, market speculation. Now, plants are very volatile. When a group of people collectively think that a certain plant has a certain value or a certain potential, it is kind of like playing in a stock market in a way. When there's confidence, people will spend more money on it. And number 1, the most important, and this is the basic economics principle, and that is supply and demand. So even the word rare plant itself would indicate the rarity of a plant. And that simply means that the demand is a lot higher than the supply is. Low supply, high demand means that it's gonna fetch a very expensive price. And of course, all the variables that I mentioned earlier, they change over time. This is why the plant prices are volatile. All right, I'm really excited to show you some plant price pyramid that I came up with. But before that, I want to do a shout out to Mike Rimland from Costa Farms because he actually flew to Indonesia last December and we had lunch together. And actually he talked to me about a plant price pyramid. Of course, his version may differ from mine because we didn't really go into details. There were a lot of topics that we discussed very passionately. But I wanted to mention his name because he reached out last week to me as I was producing this episode, because in my Philippines trip on the 22nd, which is next Saturday, I am going to deliver a talk show regarding this topic. So it's really interesting that he reached out to me last week and he said, I saw your Sayam Flora episode in Thailand and I really am thankful for your contributions to the plant community. And he wanted to send me some money. And I said, okay, sure. No one's really done that before. And of course, we won't disclose that amount here, but I just wanted to take like this few seconds to thank him for the act of generosity and kindness. And yeah, it's interesting how it all tied up. Philippines, Mike, and this topic that we're filming today. It all lined up around the same week. Okay, on to the pyramid. Now I'm going to be showing them on the screen, so I'll be staring at my screen sometimes. The first pyramid that we see here is the most basic one, and the pyramid travels downwards in time. So it starts on the top, and then as time goes by, the prices will come down as the quantity expands. I'm gonna go from top to bottom. So a plant is usually discovered by a creator or founder. So they're either found in the wild, it's a form that has mutated in tissue culture or in propagation, variegation, or it's a hybrid, an original hybrid is also created. Now these creators, they will fetch top dollars because they will be selling at a pretty high price, and then they're sold down to the next person, which is the risk takers, or in many cases, they're also sold or given to inner circles. There was an episode I did at Mr. Chandra's where he shared his history with a lot of these collectors from like, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. They had such strong bond and relationship with the international growers that they sometimes just send plants to each other that are exquisite, rare, and otherwise unavailable to be bought at the time. The next one down would be the early adopters. They will be the people who buy it very, very early on with the idea to propagate and make a profit out of it. And then next would be the market followers. These are the people that figured out, oh, this is in fact the right trend to get into, so they're buying it. They're also going to be propagating it, but they're a little bit late in the game, although they can still profit from it. And then finally, you have your collectors. And of course, collectors sometimes would propagate the plant and also do some sales or trading, but by this time, the plant price would have kind of stabilized or would have probably even gone down. And the journey of all rare plants is that they become common plants. Now, outside of the pyramids are spectators. Even though you may not have purchased the said plant when we're talking about it or we're seeing it on Instagram and we're reposting photos of it, our actions do have impact on some of these plants. In the next slide here, I hope it's easy for you to understand, but a pyramid isn't exactly a pyramid. So this is a more realistic view of what a pyramid might look like. Let me explain. Now, when you have a creator and founder, the pyramid is a little bit curved downwards and then it just gets scaled up in production. And then at some point it will balloon up, so the supply would kind of exceed the demand. And this is the case for most of the plants. And then it would plateau down into a common plant, and then the production rate will also reduce. And then the plant price would stabilize at a certain price. Now the next slide is really interesting. This is from my experience seeing plant shows around the world, US, Thailand, China, Indonesia, Singapore. Now, this example is based on this month, November 2024. Of course, this changes over time. And honestly, I cannot name a plant that is currently being identified as being a new product, but I was just in Sayam Flora and they are the creator of the Anthurium Night Dragon. Now, when I filmed it back in June, only 4 people have the Night Dragon. 1 in the US, 1 in China, 1 in Thailand, and 1 in Indonesia. So these are the early adopters. They're also the inner circle. They're also the people who pay top dollars to get this mother plant. So I would classify the Anthurium Night Dragon currently in the risk taker and inner circle side. Now the next would be the Devil Monstera and the Philodendron hybrids. And of course the Devil Monstera was made public around April this year. I would say at that time, the Devil Monstera would have been 1 tier up in the risk taker side. But because a lot of people have it, I don't know, my best guess is maybe 20 different growers have it. It is coming into the early adopters market, and the philodendron hybrids are commanding exuberant price points now, and they are so expensive. Only the people who are going to be propagating and profiting off of it, which is the early adopters, are going to be buying them. Of course, once in a while, you will have your collectors that will pay top dollars for it. But when we talk about the price of the devil monsteras and the philodendron hybrids now, which is like thousands of dollars. Some of them don't really apply to us. This is why I implore in the beginning of the episode that we should have a more meaningful conversation about plant prices, because these plant prices at this time, they do not reflect us as a consumer. But they are an important topic to talk about, and they do generate a lot of interest in the plant market. So it is important, but we just have to understand that these things take time, and when it is time, we can get our hands on them. Now, next down the list would be your Monstera electrolyte, masterpiece, and variegated alocasias. Some of the risk-taking plants in the tier above don't make it down here. Some of them, they just become unpopular over time. People may forget about them, or they're just not trendy enough, so they don't make it to this side. But this is where a lot of you guys actually start coming in and buying the plants and then propagating it. And going down the tier, the collectors, right now collectors are buying the variegated biliatai, the red Congo variegated, and also the caramel marbles. Of course, there's a ton of other examples, but these are plants that used to be one tier above 1 to 2 years ago, and they've moved down. And the trajectory of these plants will go down into the common plants. This will take, anywhere from 1 to 5 years, depending on the plant, depending on the supply demand, on the production, and many other variables. Finally, we've got plants that have become quite common, and this is controversial, but for me, in my point of view, in my travels around the world, the Florida Beauty, hands down, from a rare plant, it has now become a common plant. The prices have gone down quite a bit. Of course, it depends on your region. If you live in the Middle East, you live in India, or I don't know which continent you live on, where these plants are scarce, they can be expensive. But here in Southeast Asia, the Florida Beauty, I don't think I can sell one for more than $20. That's for my Indonesian market though. And I don't sell plants, by the way, so a lot of you guys tend to comment on my videos, where can I buy plants from you, sir? I don't sell plants. I'm just saying figuratively that if I sold a Florida Beauty today, it would not come on more than $20. And then the variegated Monstera also has become quite common, but we will dive into the variegated Monstera later on because it's going to become an important topic. Now, the next one, pyramid by plant type. Of course, every plant will have a different shape pyramid, and here are some extreme examples. On the left here, you've got your Syngoniums and Scindapsus. Now these guys, they are very fast growing. They are very stable. So their pyramid is on the short end. They do scale up very fast in production, so their supply exceeds demand very quickly in a matter of months. So a lot of people who are more savvy will not really invest in these plants, or if they do, they would have to turn it around very quickly because the pyramid is so short. So you really have months time, maybe 3 to 6 months before you have to propagate the plant and then make a return off of it. Conversely, plants that are slow growing, for example, the Encephalardos, or in my recent episode, I did the Welwitschia mirabilis. These are super slow growing plants. Of course, if you're gonna buy these plants, I recommend to buy them from a sustainable source. But if you look at the growth here, over a long period of time, the quantity doesn't really scale up that much, and they do hold up their value a lot longer. So this is just an example for you to look at. This is controversial, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate from this. So I apologize to my Indonesian friends, and I might be wrong about this. Feel free to contradict, feel free to sound off in the comment section politely. I wanna show you that the pyramids work differently in different regions as well. This is based on many different factors, such as your government regulations, import and export, could be the business ethics of each nation. Everybody has different ways of doing business. It could be due to culture and traditions, or the limited land usage, and so many other variables. But here I'm going to show you on the left hand side, this is Thailand and China. They balloon up very quickly. Even like the early risk takers, the early adopters, Chinese and Thai people are interested in growing tons of plants and growing them at scale. So for example, when they buy a plant for let's say $1,000, they're not interested to sell that plant for $1,200. They're not interested in making short-term profit. What they will do is they will take the plant, they will grow it and grow it well, and over a few years time they will propagate it. And even though in a few months or years time the value would have come down, the total value of the plants that they would have produced would be a lot more. Now it does take a lot of work, and it is a bit risky to propagate so many plants, But in the end, the mindset of Thai and Chinese and many other cultures have similar values. I think the US are also very good at mass propagation, is to bring the plant prices down, but be available for the mass market. So for collectors living in these regions, it is quite a wonderful thing because you can access to some of these plants very, very quickly. And of course, as we look at this here, as it balloons down, by the time you're a collector, you really don't have an avenue to make profit off of it, which is what I kind of like as well. For example, in the US, there is a very, very clear supply chain system where one person would procure a mother plant and produce this en masse, such as Costa Farms, and then you would have your reseller, like a big box store or a plant shop. They would buy from these producers, and then they would mark it up and sell it to a end user, a customer. So all of these people fit into this supply chain. They belong in this pyramid in a healthy way that the cycle can keep continuing and go on. However, if you look at the Indonesia side here, something has gone wrong. I love this country and I really would love to see it thrive, I see it do better. But the Indonesian culture is not geared towards long-term sustainability of many things. Our business mindset is not geared towards long-term thinking on long-term gains. A lot of the people here tend to think things in a short-sighted or short-term gain kind of mindset. So this is what happened during COVID. When somebody discovers a plant or brought it in, the plant would, let's say, be $100, and then immediately they would go on live sale, they would go on Instagram, and the same plant will be sold for $120. So then the next person will buy it for $120, and then they will do the same. So the plant is essentially the same plant, will go around from hand to hand, and each time it will cost a lot more money. If you think about it, it really is like a ticking bomb. So the bomb gets larger and larger each time you pass it on, but everyone will make money along the way. Of course, there'll be profit along the way until it blows up in the last person's hand who's holding it. Then boom, it will explode. So a lot of the prices in Indonesia at the time, even today, would increase very, very sharply, but then they would decrease very, very sharply as well. So this is, in my opinion, not a very, very good, healthy plant market. So if you see here on the right-hand side, on the Indonesia side, the pyramid is a lot shorter. Indonesians are not propagators as well. Of course, there are many exceptions. There are many of us here in Indonesia that genuinely like to scale up production, that loves growing and horticulture, but most of us don't. So we're not interested in creating more products and selling them cheaper. We're interested in keeping the prices high, and people will buy into scarcity. So that is the mindset of the Indonesians. It has its pros and cons, don't get me wrong. A lot of original products are coming out of Indonesia. This kind of mindset does keep people zoomed in towards, oh, I gotta create the next thing. How do I strike it rich by looking at these short-term gains? But as a collector living here, I cannot buy a lot of these plants at an affordable price because due to supply and demand, they are incredibly expensive. So when I'm going to Thailand or China, I'm looking at all these plant prices. I'm usually drilling. I can't really buy them or bring them home, but I just can appreciate them from afar. And in regards to supply chain, we mentioned earlier of comparing it with the US, you've got your clear cut, producer, distributor, seller, and customer. In Indonesia, everyone is everything. The customer are also propagating and they're also doing selling. So everybody is kind of doing everything and no one's really specializing at certain things. This is why the market, in my opinion, isn't really that competitive internationally. So sound off in the comment section. I've never really shown this pyramid to anyone before, but I thought for me it does make sense and helps us put into perspective where we belong in this pyramid and where each plant and each region kind of behave. All right, and we are in the third act of this episode, my favorite part. How do we actually afford some of these new, interesting, rare plants that seem to get more and more expensive? When we think of a plant that's trendy, we buy it, and then suddenly that plant is not trendy anymore because something else better has come along the way. It's like doing a marathon or a competition, and suddenly the finish line just keeps getting moved further and further away. So where do people come up with the kind of money to buy these expensive plants? Well, I've got another list for you. Number one, you could inherit it. Or number two, you could earn from your decent hard labor, earn it from an income. Or number three, you could marry into it. Although for a lot of us, it may be too late. Or number four, sustainably grow your collection. And I'm gonna show you how. So this is how you sustainably grow the collection, how we level up. For example, you could buy a variegated Monstera. For example, it costs $100 today. And then you grow it well for 1 year and you get 10 leaves. Next, you watch OnlyPlants videos to see how you can propagate these plants successfully. And then you propagate them and wait another 6 months. Now you have 10 plants with one mother plant. And by the way, if you watch my videos, you will also know that even if you grow a plant and some of the leaves have died off, you could cut the bare nodes and they could turn into potential plants. So don't give up there and watch a lot of my videos. But at this time, it is 18 months away and the variegated Monstera is priced at $60. It's no longer $100. But if you sold 5 of these plants, you're still making $300. And you still got your mother plant that you can keep in your collection forever. So a real collector would invest the $300 to buy something more expensive, or as I mentioned earlier, to level up. And of course, I know there's a lot of you who would rather spend the $300 on a pair of shoes, and no shame in that. But a true collector will always level up their collection. Now, of course, if you fail to grow this Monstera into 10 different plants, you probably shouldn't buy a more expensive and more rare plant anyway. You should level up, polish your skills, you should master the care until you are ready. So back to the Devil Monsteras. Back in June, 3 people bought it for $32,000 US, if I'm not wrong. 2 of them were from the Philippines. You guys are having the best plant market now, by the way. I think you guys came in a bit late after COVID. I understand that import restrictions have become a little bit easier for you guys. You guys are finally able to trade internationally. Because I understand in the beginning, and during COVID, a lot of you guys messaged me, and I think trading was an issue back then. So the Philippines, you guys are having a renaissance with the plant market, and I hope you enjoy it. But anyways, these buyers who are buying the Devil Monsteras, they have leveled up. They've leveled up to level 99, while a lot of us are still at level 1 or level 10. So I just wanted to give you guys a clear idea of the market, and that there's also hope. Of course, if the end goal for you is to buy these rare plants, it takes years, but you absolutely can, so don't give up. But of course, for a lot of us, we just want to grow. We just want to be happy around plants that bring us joy. For example, for me, a lot of my plants are actually common. I've only bought common plants lately. Some of the rare plants were given by people, and I used to buy rare plants, but common plants bring me a lot of joy too. They beautify my home and they teach me a lot about care and patience and resilience. I'm very, very grateful to have all kinds of plants around me, whether they're common or rare. And I hope that you guys can adopt the same kind of attitude. Of course, you don't have to. I know some of you guys just want to attain the next trending plants, and that is also okay. And that's what keeps the market going and exciting. All right, with that being said, thank you so much for watching this all the way to the very end. Happy shopping and happy growing. And if I can ask for a favor, do check down below to see if you are subscribed to the channel. If you haven't yet, please do click on the subscribe button. It really helps me out a lot. And comment on these videos. It really, really helps with the algorithm. Send it a like, and I hope that this video will reach out to more plant parents and collectors so that they can understand the market better. And of course, if you want to contribute financially to the channel, and no pressure at all, but I'm on Patreon at patreon.com/Sean from OnlyPlants. You can also join as a YouTube member. Simply open my videos from a desktop browser, not your mobile phone, but the desktop. And next to my name, there'll be a join button, and there you have the option to join as a member. For a small cup of coffee a month, you really, really, really are making a difference, and I hope that I will see more of you guys there. But if not, don't worry about it. Just by you watching this all the way to the very end really, really helped me out. So I guess I will see you in next week's episode. Bye!